Hello my dear students, welcome to another video on biology subject, chapter 4, ecosystem. So before we understand ecosystem, we need to understand environment. So let us see. Environment means surrounding and refers to everything living and non-living around us. Now, if you are sitting in your house, everything around you, the nature, the trees, your parents, maybe your pet, everything is your present environment. For example, if an elephant lives in a forest, it is an example of a animal living in a condition which is the forest. It has numerous living things like insects, animals, many plants, trees, and also there is the effect of the non-living things such as air, water, soil, and minerals. So there are many factors around in a forest or any environment for such reasons that impact our environment. There are many factors, even there are cultural components like people are involved. Maybe they cut the trees, cut the forest area, or burn it up to build up industries. So it is impacted by the human activities. So all the activities of an organism are influenced by the environment. Now, what is an ecosystem? When I talk about ecosystem, we mean all the living things or organisms in a given area that constitute the biotic and the abiotic components of the environment. So, what is biotic and what is abiotic? Biotic refers to all the plants, animals, and microorganisms which are the living component of a ecosystem. And the abiotic component is the non-living component, that is maybe air, water, soil. There are climatic factors, sunlight, temperature, humidity, and wind. These form the abiotic components of the ecosystem. So how will I define ecosystem? All the interacting organisms in an area together with the non-living components are constituting an ecosystem. Now, the study of the interaction between the living organism and their environment is called ecology. So, someone who studies these interaction is an ecologist. And this word has come from a Greek word oikos, meaning house or a place to live in. And Ernst Haeckel first used this word in 1869. Now, when I talk about the biotic component, as I told you, biotic means living. So it includes all the living organisms, let it be the plants, animals, and even the microorganisms. What are microorganisms, my dear students? They are the very small microscopic organisms which you cannot see directly with your eyes. They have to be seen under the microscope. So now the biotic components of an ecosystem are classified as follows. We are having the producers. Who are the producers? The green plants, because they are the one who can make their own food. We will be going into more details. Then we have the consumers, which are the biotic component, the ones who consume. Again, there are three types: herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Then we have the decomposers, mostly which constitute these microorganisms. Now, if we have to explain what is producers, you can see I have a picture here. Can you guess what this represents? It shows that a green plant is preparing food by trapping sun's energy. So energy from the sun, the carbon dioxide that we are exhaling, water from the plant's body, and which it absorbs from its root, and the oxygen is being given out to us. So the main role of the producers is to make food by the process of photosynthesis. And how does it do it? It is trapping the source of energy, that is the sun's energy, which we are calling as the solar energy. And then the plants are having the ability, only plants can absorb these energy directly and convert into food in their bodies. The green plants, they make the food in the presence of sunlight using water, carbon dioxide and mineral. And you know that this process is called photosynthesis. And also, as the plants are able to prepare their own food, we are calling them as producers or autotrophs. So please remember, if someone will ask you why green plants are producers, I hope you know the reason now. Then the second level is the consumers. So when we talk about consumers, they are the living organisms which cannot make their own food, but they consume the plants or animals. And they are called the consumers or heterotrophs. And all animals are consumers. No animal is having the ability to prepare food in their own body. And we are again categorizing the consumers as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. What are herbivores? You have been reading these terms before in your lower classes also. But now you understand that they form part of a system called the ecosystem. Herbivores are the animals that eat the green plants and are called herbivores or the primary consumers. Remember the term primary consumers because they are the one directly depending on the plants like deer, elephant, etc. Then when we talk about carnivores, they are the animals which eat other animals. So you know them, they are the secondary consumers like tiger, lion, leopard, etc. And when we talk about omnivores, we are talking about the animals that eat both plants and animals also. So they are called omnivores. Like examples are human beings are the best example. Then bear, crow, dogs, and so many other are categorized as omnivores. Also, we have one other category where some carnivores that feed on dead animals. They are called the scavengers. They feed on the dead animals like hyena, jackal, etc. Then we come to the decomposers. You can see there is a diagram of a bacteria. So bacteria is a decomposer. So what is a decomposer? It is in addition to all the carnivores and like the producers and the consumers, there is more microscopic organisms in the earth that feed on the dead bodies of organisms and decaying organic matter. We call them as decomposers, and they are the bacteria and fungi. So we call the decomposers as the nature scavengers. So do you know the reason why? You can see the points because they break down the complex organic compounds present in the remains of the dead plants and animals. So they are decomposing the organic matter found in the dead and the animals and plants. They release the nutrient from them. The dead and decaying organisms on which these decomposers grow, they release nutrient from this so that the environment gets it back. So they are helping in recycling of nutrients. Now, next topic for discussion is interaction within the biotic components. Now, how do the biotic components interact with each other? Mostly it is all related primarily to the food. So they form the food chains and the food webs. So these are very important concepts in this chapter that you need to know. Food chain is a series of organisms that are linked to each other through the process of eating and being eaten up, and thus they form a food chain. For example, you can see the one shown here. So grass is there which is being eaten by the rabbit. The rabbit is eaten by the snake and the snake may be eaten by the eagle. So that's a simple food chain. So what is happening? One thing is being eaten up by the other thing, other organism, and this chain of the of eating up and being eaten up forms the food chain. I'll show you some more examples. Like here, you can see a three-step food chain in a forest ecosystem. There is a lot of grass in the forest. The deer feed on it, so the deer can be eaten up by the lion. So here, this is a forest ecosystem where the green plants are the producers. As you know the reason, they make their own food and they are eaten up by the deer, which are the herbivores or the primary consumers. And then in turn, the deer is eaten up by the lion, which is a carnivore or the secondary consumer. One more example to understand it. Here I have a four-step food chain in a grassland ecosystem. And what do you see? There are some grasshoppers or some insects eating up the grass. Those insects are in turn eaten by the frog. And the frog is eaten again up by the eagle. So there are four steps here. So grass being the producer, the herbivore is the insect because it feeds only on the grass, and the carnivore is the frog, and the next level carnivore is the eagle. And so it forms a four-step food chain. So I'm very sure with these examples of food chain, you have understood what a food chain is. So now let us see what is a food web. So you know that most consumers, they may not have one source of food. They may be eating up a lot other things also. So it forms a complex web. So when several food chains are interconnected to form a food web. Many food chains, as you can see here in the diagram, you can see the tree, the plant. It can be eaten by the goat can be eaten by the jackal can be eaten by the lion, or maybe the rat. It feeds the grasses and then the grass eaten by the mice, and then the snake eats it up, and then the snake is eaten by the eagle, and so on. There is a lot of complex relationship here. So all these form a food web. So several food chains are joined together in a food web. And coming to today's last topic is flow of energy. So here we have a flow chart or a diagrammatic representation of the flow of energy. Now you know that the main source of energy is the sun. The solar energy is used by whom? The plants. They are the producers. They are eaten up by the herbivores. Then the herbivores may be eaten up by the consumers. They are the carnivores, and then the herbivores may be directly dead and they can be decomposed into the simple organic compound, and by the decompose they will break the herbivores or anything which dies. They will feed on them, on the remains of the dead remains of plants and animals, and then again it will convert to the simple organic substances, and then again they can be used by the plant, or directly the plants can also be dead and they can be acted upon by the decomposers. Even you can see that carnivores, once they die, they will be acted upon by the decomposers. So there is a flow of energy, but you have to remember few points, like the ultimate source of energy is the sun. We get the main energy coming from the sun. This flow is happening, of energy flow is happening from the producers, that is the plant, to the consumers. It may be the herbivores, carnivores, secondary carnivores, tertiary carnivores, and so on. It is unidirectional. Means it is always taking, the flow of energy is always happening in one direction. It will not happen in the two directions. It will happen in one direction only. Like, also it is said that the amount of energy decreases at each level. So like the sun's energy is being used by the green plants. So suppose green plant is having the maximum energy. When that is eaten up by the herbivore's amount of energy becomes little lesser than what it had been in the first stage, that is in the green plants. So when the plants are eaten up by the herbivores, the energy stored in them is transferred to the herbivores, and then again the herbivores, some of the energy for their activities they will use it up, and some they will store in the body. Then this stored energy is again transferred to the carnivore when they eat that herbivore. So like that, one organism eats the other, and the energy passes like that from the producer to the herbivore and then to the carnivores. So that energy flow is shown in this diagram. So it is always unidirectional to remember. Also remember that the energy decreases at each level. From the sun, when it goes to green energy, suppose it the sun gives out, suppose 80% of the energy is being used by the plant. The herbivores may have just 70% of it or 60% of it. Then the carnivores may have just 50% of it. It is even lesser. I'm just giving you a random percentage example to explain the flow of energy. So with these topics covered today, what is ecosystem, what are the biotic and abiotic components, what is the biotic component, producers, consumers, herbivore, carnivore, and the flow of energy, what is food chain and food web, I'm very sure you might be able to understand what these topics covered today for you. And I would like to ask you in the comment section, please answer me some examples of food chain that you know, maybe a simple food chain or a food web that you can recall. Please do write it in the comment section, and do like, share, and comment on the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for watching.